Back, you're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indemuli. We continue looking at the headlines with my panelists this morning. Wilson Sossion, a former MP, also one-time Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, and David Kiplagat, MP Soi. As we continue looking at the headlines, there's one that features across all the front pages. And this is even in Uganda, because we're talking about a Ugandan athlete. Killing most foul, Cheptegei is dead after fire assault. That's on page 2 of the Standard. It's there on the front page. On the Daily Nation, the family of the late Ugandan Olympian Rebecca Cheptegei has blamed Kenyan police, still Kenyan police, for not acting swiftly to save their daughter, who was not at peace for months before meeting her death. She is also on the front page of the Star, as well as the People Daily. They've used the image of both the athlete and the suspect. It is a big story. It's also on the front pages of the dailies in Uganda, both on the Daily Monitor and the New Vision. And I just want to get your sentiments on this, Bwana Kiplagat. There's also the angle of domestic violence and what happens even to Kenyan athletes. This is not the first Kenyan athlete that has met such an end.
Yeah, it's rather sad when we lose a champion of who is actually by all blood belongs to Kenya, although born and bred in Uganda. It's rather sad when you lose such an athlete in such a manner. So, and what we need to do, because this is not a first, and if nothing is done, it might not be the last, is there is need to actually look at the welfare of our athletes, to look at the security of our athletes, and to take seriously whenever there are concerns. Because I'm looking at the front page of the Daily Nation, it is indicating that for months there have been some rumbling within the family between the two lovers, and the police should have taken actually note so that it can be they can be able to nip it in the bud. But having lost such an athlete in such a manner, being projected, because I also saw in the CNN the same was being projected in the main international media, and you know, someone will start wondering, how do we actually behave? How can somebody just wake up and end the life of an athlete who is known all over the world? You know, I think it is very sad. It's very sad. And from where I'm standing, I think the government need to critically look at the welfare of our athletes, critically look at their security, so that we can be able to reduce such incidents. You even remember the Kiptum issue, whereby he was driving at midnight, and there's need the same way we have members of parliament. You have your driver, you have your bodyguard, you have your I think we also need to look at what we can do for at least, so that we don't lose them in such a manner.
It's definitely an issue of concern, Bwana Sossion, the fact that we see how we've lost quite a number of big-name athletes in Kenya. Going as far back as Samuel Wanjiru, the marathon champion. You mentioned David Kiptum. There was another incident of a lady athlete who also died in similar circumstances. Now Cheptegei. Yeah. It raises an issue about the safety and security of athletes in Kenya. These are big exports. Not just for Kenya, but for the region as well.
And my quick psychological analysis of these athletes is that they are victims of people who have interest in their property, because they've won money, they won events, they won money. And that becomes the central issue of interest by their partners. If you look at Wanjiru, it boils down to strained relationship. If you look, Kiptum, of course, was an accident. This one also boils down to relationship and struggle over property. And I think a lot needs to be done about athletes within the flagship of the creative economy. We should have a framework of assisting these athletes so that even in their private lives, they have capacity to manage themselves and to avoid being victims of people running after their property, because somebody can take away all your money and kill you. And you know, dead men tell no, dead people tell no tales. And so I think there's a lot that needs, it's bigger than this conversation here. It's not anybody can easily, we cannot conclude it from this show.
Okay.
But I think there is a lot that needs to be done to give them capacity. As they excel, they should be managed very well. We've seen in other economies, whether they're film actors, whether they're celebrities in different things, they have very good managers who are able to manage them both in private and even their finances. And that is what probably some of our athletes need, so that then they're not victims of callous hyenas
We've had
who are
this,
after their property
yes,
in the name of
we've had super athletes for such a long time. How come we've never gotten to such a level where our professional athletes are dealing with professional managers, not just when they're running, but even handling their personal affairs and making sure that
there are many who are very
security.
successful. There are many who are very successful. Look at Kipchoge Keino. He's a celebrity, he's doing well, and he's good. He's doing his own bit of investments and supporting athletics in private. And we cannot say that all our athletes are reckless. No, many of them are successful. But I think these great men and women need a lot of our support. And we cannot send them to represent their countries without developing a framework to help them sustain their careers in a sustainable and secure manner. Okay. Sustainable and secure manner, so that we make meaning of the creative economy. It's a new frontier of industry and of employment and of opportunities for our talented citizens. I think we need to do a lot to protect them. Okay. We must put measures to protect their lives and protect what they do.
At the tender age of 33 years old, Rebecca Cheptegei succumbed at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital yesterday after her partner doused her in petrol and set her ablaze. Her father says, even last Friday, we made a complaint, but unfortunately he doused my daughter with petrol and she's dead. The government should now act, though it's too late. So Kenya and Uganda thrown into mourning following the tragic death of Rebecca Cheptegei, who's one of the Olympians that represented Uganda at the recent Olympics in Paris. All right, let's move on to another discussion. And on the Business Daily, how ministries spent 27 billion shillings on lavish travel. There is a report by the COB. For 10 days, mid-December, the bosses of the Trade Ministry led a delegation of 63 officials to Burundi for a trade fair on small and micro enterprises, setting taxpayers back 50.6 million shillings. Now, this discussion has continued for quite a while, and I think it's on some of the other dailies, if my director can help me with the montage of all the dailies we had, just to take a look at it. Is there officials con Ruto on travels is on the People Daily. The Stars decided to go on with the Deputy President. Spotlight on Rigathi lavish foreign trips. So they're blaming the presidency mostly, but also the ministries on the Business Daily. They've been captured as well in the same. Now, this only comes months after, no, at least a year now, about a year after the head of public service issued a circular on foreign travel. Last year around September, he did that. Yes, it's exactly 1 year. He issued a circular giving directions on how foreign travel will be conducted. We've seen, now we're saying that there's general defiance. Now we've seen a complete defiance of government officials, even to a circular by the head of public service. This is not just in the presidency, even at the ministry level. Bwana Kiplagat.
Okay, before I even delve on the issue of foreign travels, which have been capped, and I know even in Parliament we have really reduced in terms of foreign travels, because the only way to cap foreign travels is through budget cuts. if the budget can be minimized as much as possible during passing, then even if someone wants the appetite to travel, there will be no funds. So you'll have to rethink otherwise. But I'm rather astonished by some clear pattern that whenever the president makes an official trip, there is this tendency, I don't know whether it comes from the media or whether it comes from the controller of budget or whoever spins this spinning of headlines. You saw when the president was traveling to the US, where so many multilateral deals were agreed above $1 billion. We were only measuring on the jet and things to do like about that travel, and the whole news was being taken by the issues of the jet. Now here, the president has gone to China, which is an African summit for investment by China in Africa. It's a big thing, and you can see what the president and the entourage managed to put pen to paper. A lot of deals. I have not gotten the summary of it, but looking at the various deals they have been able to agree in terms of moving our development projects forward, it is above also $1 billion. So, and where are we? We are in a situation whereby we have a lot of stalled projects. We are in a quagmire in terms of the collection of our revenue, because even the 2023 Finance Act is in court, and it is even in the Apex Court, where we are only surviving because the Apex Court could not were lenient enough not to give those orders to suspend the finance bill as the case is continuing. So let us also be positive as Kenyans, especially. This headline can come next week once we are through with analyzing what we were able to get from China and which projects we are able to fund.
The issue is the timing of the headline.
Yeah, there is always.
The report,
may I finish?
The report is talking about some things that happened last year. Not.
I'm saying
it has not captured this latest.
It has not captured, but whoever is designing, whoever is designing this thing knows when to come up with it, because whenever the president makes a substantial visit, visiting China is not just another country. We know what I mean. Visiting US is not just another country. You know what I mean, and what it entails for this country, and what we are able to unpack. So let us, at this time, while we are waiting to receive our head of state, analyze what we have been able to get from China and what progress the nation is.
We'll come to that conversation.
Development-wise.
We will come to that conversation.
Let us not baptize the whole media houses to start covering.
Yet we cannot ignore.
Okay, having said that,
that there's a defiance of a circular by the sector.
Having said that, may I now come back to the issue of our wastage in terms of foreign travels? There is need. You don't, as a public officer, as a state officer, there is need to analyze why you need to travel and what positive impact does it have to the country. If there is no any positive impact, then I believe there is no need of traveling. And whoever wants to go to foreign trips, sometimes the appetite is on per diem. For my case, I'm not so excited about these travels, and even in Parliament, you'll never see me complaining that I didn't go from point A to point B.
Yet your colleagues have been found wanting as well.
But
I'm talking about just 2 days later, because they say days after the release of that circular on austerity measures, an official from the State Law Office splashed 630,000 shillings on a 4-day trip to Lusaka. Just 2 days later, on September 23rd, an official from the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs embarked on a 10-day trip to Turkey to inspect an elevator, a tour that cost the taxpayers 1.4 million.
No, what I was saying, you know, just the same way you can say Busa is illegal, but it won't stop Busa brewers and takers from continuing with the act. What we need to do as a government is that when the whole thing lies in the budget. When we are passing our budget, we ensure that we trim as much as possible those foreign trips, those domestic trips, so that those government officials with the appetite of traveling, they are curtailed. Because if you look at in terms of approval of travel, it including even getting a note from is it foreign? It is not Fabal from the foreign ministry. It involves.
You cannot go without approval.
The head of public service authorizing the public officer. So, because all these measures
hence my concern
seems to be leaking.
That the head of public service issued a circular. Before any government official travels outside the country, you require the kind of approvals you say, as high up as the head of public service. Then how is it working? Is the government serious when it issues these circulars? Is the president meaning in his words when he says his government will pursue austerity measures?
What the media should do now is to be extremely accurate in exposing this, to help us in streamlining the process, to help the country. When you mix so many things, you want to bastardize a travel of the president, which you know.
No one has talked about the president's travel this time around.
Let's leave the president's travel.
In fact, it's only Bwana Kiplagat who introduced the president's travel this one.
And the president.
We have not even talked about China.
Yes, let's leave that one.
Yes.
Let's leave it as.
No, by the way, I saw the analysis yesterday. They were analyzing the president office of the president.
On TV 47.
Another media house did it yesterday. Yes. And so let us, if there is a UN General Assembly that is coming, do you expect the president not to attend the UN General Assembly on our behalf as a member state? And even having been in the Security Council, sitting in the Security Council, definitely not. We expect the president's office to operate effectively and engage in international activities that are beneficial to the country. Somebody was asking me the other day, hey, how much is the government going to spend in campaigning for Raila Odinga to be the chairman of AU? Are we not going to waste money? No. I think we should look at the benefits that come with certain investments. That said, having said, these are the aspect of defiance of circulars. I don't agree with the defiance of circulars whatsoever. If a circular has been issued, it must be complied with. You cannot issue a circular and then go ahead again and violate it. And to the extent of how it has been violated, you need to convince us as media and give us absolute data that this, and of course this total of 26 billion.
The Controller of Budget has done it for us as a report.
This total, 26 billion, is outside what was budgeted. It is outside the budget. And if it is outside the budget, then somebody must answer for it. Because, you know, as a government officer, as has been said by Mheshimiwa, your travel must be approved. And when it's approved, it triggers money from Treasury. And Treasury will trigger money within the budget framework, what has been budgeted for international travels. I want to be convinced that this expenditure is outside the budget for international travels, so that then the circular by the head of public service should be implemented by the Treasury by shrinking the allocation. When you shrink the allocation and take this money elsewhere, we will not be here discussing about how it has been sent, how it has been spent. So the controller should tell us that the Treasury has spent outside the allocated budget 27 billion. If I'm convinced that way, then I would say this 27 billion is almost enough to deliver substantially the UHC for households in Kenya. This 27 billion is enough to hire 56,000 teachers that the country needs. There are more agents. I agree. we need to reduce these travels by everybody in the country. Let us let the president and key leaders in government engage, even in ministries. You must not have everybody traveling around the world. Do we have strategic plans within the ministries that people stick to and implement? Our own strategic plan. We cannot be learning throughout. This is almost the 60-something year of independence, and we are still learning how to do things. We don't need to. We have a short period, like, for example, Kenya Kwanza administration, we have 5 years, and we have a plan with 5 key pillars from agriculture, MSME, ICT, housing, and UHC to deliver to Kenyans. We don't need to go outside Kenya to do that. We need to collect resources and deliver, and that is all we need. I agree. If there is wastage, if there are programs that are wasting resources, those areas should be tapped. And that's the responsibility of the National Treasury. And if the head of public service has issued a circular, that circular should be implemented. A government circular is not a love letter. It is a directive. And if we are running a government where directives are not complied with, then it would be unfortunate. But I still want to be convinced that this 27 billion is outside the budget and outside the investment programs of the various line ministries.
Okay.
If it is, then there's a problem.
But the president has been very vocal on issues to do with austerity. Even after the rejection of the finance bill 2024, he said, yes, we will pursue serious austerity measures. It is such things that worry people, the general public, that the president may say one thing. His head of public service has issued 2 circulars specifically on foreign travel, but we see a continued spend on the same. And many people wonder, okay, we cannot take the president's word to mean anything.
You see, in Ndimuli, let us also be fair on to government and also to government officials. And as I said, the critical issue here is the budgeting. And looking at the supplementary budget that we just passed, we have actually shrunk on the issue of recurrent expenditure. And the most affected were both domestic and foreign travels. It's like if I've been taking 5 cups of tea, they were reduced to 2. So you should also not continue complaining why I'm taking 2 cups of tea. And what has happened is that it has been reduced. Look at Parliament. Parliament, we were able to cut our total budget by 3.7 billion. That 3.7 billion, close to 3 billion, was on foreign and domestic travels. In fact, if you look at even report writing and all our budgeting issues, we have been able to do it inside Parliament. Initially, we used to go and do it in Mombasa. We used to go and do it in Kisumu, but it is no longer visible. And it is no longer visible because we have been constrained by the budget. So we were able to save 3.7 billion. And every ministry were told to cut their recurrent expenditure by 30%. And the most affected was domestic and foreign travels. So we managed to save close to, if you are looking at your math in terms of what we were able to save from the recurrent expenditure, I can tell you what we saved in the recurrent expenditure, most of it were foreign and domestic travels. So we should appreciate as a country where we have come from that after the failure of the Finance Bill 2024, we have been able to reduce substantially our domestic and recurrent expenditure. So the little that has remained, let us also not continue, unless, it is like somebody beating the child and you want to make sure he dies. Okay. So let us not go that direction. Okay. Let us look at the budget before, look at the supplementary budget before, look at the items that were able to be reduced, how much we were able to save, so that the media should be projecting that the country has managed to save 50 billion from cutting on wastage, cutting on foreign travel, cutting on domestic travels, and that is a plus. It is not a negative, so that you don't now continue to make sure that maybe at the end of the day, we might reach a situation whereby we cannot go and negotiate any business deal outside Kenya or even outside the capital city.
And talking about the travel, now that the president is out of the country, let's focus on that a bit. And you look at our front pages today, there's no mention of that travel at all. And it talks about the sentiments from general Kenyans on what exactly they feel about that travel. If you compare to the newspapers in our neighboring countries, especially Tanzania, they're very positive. And I asked my director to put the Mwananchi and the Citizen coming from Tanzania. They look at very positively. Wanasema Tanzania mfano Afrika kunufaika na misaada ya China. Yeah? Talking about the amount, shilingi trilioni 133 kwa miaka mitatu inayokuja. On the front page of on the Citizen, avocado growers look set for China bonanza. Even the words they use, bonanza. Samia, we are ready for broader China-Africa cooperation, meaning they're approaching this travel by their president to China in a very positive way. When it comes to Kenya, there's so much skepticism about this travel to China. There's the issue of debt that has been a major bone of contention. And many people are saying, you've been talking about debt here. Now you travel to China, don't you mean we're getting more debt? Isn't that a problem?
You know what, Fred? It's good you have shown us the reporting in Tanzania. That is how the media frames the visit. And they're able to get into the details. Yeah. What is it that the country is getting? Tanzania to benefit from China, and particularly on
maybe our problems are
they're very specific. It is the reporting. The media culture here, you've given it a blackout. And you know, the President Xi Jinping with President Ruto met, and one of the great news to the farmers of Kenya is that China is going to open their markets to Kenyan agricultural produce. And I thought that would be splashed as one of the headlines, what the media would be doing now. I thought the media should even be represented every media.
Why do you think it happens like that in Kenya?
Fred, it is your culture as a media. I don't think...
It has nothing to do with the Kenyans themselves?
No, it has nothing to do with the Kenyans. Why are you trying to superimpose an idea of the media on Kenyans when it is you? Kenyans don't control the media. Kenyans don't determine headlines. Kenyans don't run the newsrooms. They don't. Why are you bringing us issues of police, of the IG of police, and you are not bringing us issues of what the president is doing in China? Don't Fred, this one I'll fix you today. It is you.
We've just come up from a discussion about debt.
Media, because I expect the media, what Kenyans expect is the media to report exactly what is happening. If now China has been open to agricultural goods, which agricultural goods? Is it avocado? Is it maize? Is it onions? Is it tomatoes? What is it? Is it meat? We should now be able to tell Kenyans so that then the Kenyan farmers can organize themselves. There must be organized information and data. There's a lot of data out there in China, which is the responsibility of the media to inform Kenyans.
Do you agree?
Are you really informing Kenyans?
Do you agree that there's an issue of debt that we've been told is the biggest problem we have as a country, and that is why we have issues with a slowed economy? Do you agree that debt is a big issue?
Fred, can you report everything, including even debt?
Okay.
Don't black out good information.
So there are serious concerns about Kenya's debt portfolio.
Get out there to fish out only negative information. You want to feed Kenyans with negative information. Yes, there is nothing progressive. It is good to report progressive aspects. It is true. Kenyan government has been relating with China in many programs, from standard gauge and it started way back. More International Sports Center was built by Chinese. So this cooperation with China is not a new thing. And let me tell you, in global economic development, and even human civilizations. We are interdependent, and it's not going to end today.
There are serious questions that have been asked about. There are serious questions that have been asked about the
issues
SGR.
To do with debts.
The SGR, the construction of the SGR, where China was part of it, the initial phase of the SGR. There are questions about that. Some of these questions have been raised by the current
say something
administration.
about the SGR.
I'll come back to you. Let me give Bwana Kipling.
Just before even
the issue of debt is a serious one, and Kenyans are right to be skeptical about this. If at all we are looking like we will borrow more, Kenyans definitely will be skeptical about that.
I think let us, before even I go to SGR, let us look at what is happening in the media. Look at the headlines. The only way where the president has been covered in terms of the trip to China and what he has been able to get is a very small, look at here, a very small caption. Ruto returns with multi-billion.
He's been given 2 pages, 6 and 21.
No. Look at the headline. Look at the balls, just to this one that advertises this lady.
It's bigger one.
Yeah, the bigger one.
The pulse is bigger than...
Yeah, you get.
What is the idea of the person who was working on this splash? To diminish.
Yeah, to diminish. Yeah.
No, the trip has received quite a lot of coverage on page 6.
Oh, we are saying the headline.
No.
The headline.
The headline because
they found a small space for a highlight on the front page.
No, the headline, you can see where we are coming from. So what we are telling also the media, let us improve our image as a country. Let us be positive. You have shown what the Tanzanians are covering, up to and including what they are able to sell of avocado. By opening China alone, China has the biggest population in the world, around 1.6 billion people. By opening China alone to our agriculture products, including avocados, including coffee, including all our cash crops, opening China alone is like, it is a deal that you have been negotiating since independence, because even if you go to Europe, even if you go to US, you cannot get that population. That is a big thing. And if we are looking at managing our foreign export and reducing the ratio in terms of import against export, because we are a net importer. So by opening China alone, that is a big news. So sometimes to the media.
What about the debt issue? Because
I'm coming there. I'm just saying, let us be fair to our country and do positive reporting, even if you don't like. Even if you don't like the government, but at least just love what they are.
Is it possible that the entire media could just conspire to dislike the
Yes,
government?
It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Because we need to investigate. But if they were finding, if somebody can find balls, this lady to be shown his back is more important than the billions and the negotiation of the deals. You can see surely where we are coming from. Anyway, having said that, the issue of standard gauge railway, the initial design, it's like the initial design of the standard gauge railway was to ensure that the imports from Mombasa port gets to our landlocked countries. That is Uganda, who is our biggest importer. We have Rwanda, we have Burundi. That was what it was to happen. That railway line was to run from Mombasa all the way to Kampala, and maybe now all the way to Kigali. And that is where we were saying, if that would have been done, it could have been able to have a net impact on the GDP and on the economy of this country. But because of the issues of, I'm not privy to the issues that happened, that now we just reached Naivasha. So there's no way we can utilize that potential if we are just within the inland of Kenya. So the most important thing is that let us still look at the bigger plan. And the bigger plan was to get this standard gauge railway to Kampala. Now that the Chinese have agreed to extend it to the border, is it? I think to the border, Malaba. Then I think from there the Ugandans will be able to pick. In terms of even reducing pressure on our highways, it will be able to reduce a lot of pressure on our highways by removing the trucks that are that are actually spoiling and causing a lot of traffic
Will
jams.
that have an impact on our debt portfolio?
It will have, no, in terms of positivity, it will have impact. May I say about the debts? If you look at our current debt, it's a lot. And we have to find a way of reducing it. And one way of reducing our debt is to grow our economy, for us to be able to manage. And the only way we can grow our economy is to make sure we invest in infrastructure. We invest in our roads, we invest in the railway line, we invest in our airports, we do investment.
Wasn't that the same approach by the Jubilee administration that has been so much criticized, that they focus too much on infrastructure, but at what cost?
You see, what happens is you cannot ignore infrastructure unless you are a mad person. You cannot say you shrink on infrastructure and you want to grow your economy. You cannot move. The fact that you can't move easily goods and services from one point to another. So let us try as much as possible to get the potential the SGR was supposed to give by finishing the plan. And finishing the plan is to get it to Kampala and all the way to Kigali. So the deal to make sure that at least we can reach Malaba is a good deal, because we are opening up, and I can tell you it will increase in terms of our GDP, and from there we can be able to manage our debt. Okay. So
mega infrastructure sounds very good. The dualing of the Rironi-Mau Summit Road all the way to Eldoret. It looks and sound very good. It does sound very good, but at what cost?
It doesn't sound very good. The only way you can grow an economy is through infrastructure. If you look at EU, even air infrastructure, they've opened their borders, and it is cheaper to travel around Europe. If you look at Europe, you can travel from London to Paris, to Warsaw, and even to Kremlin on rail transport. There is a very elaborate rail system, and which has been maintained over the years. Those of us who have traveled to the UK, to Europe, it is even more expensive to use train, and it's very effective. And therefore, for Africa, this China-Africa cooperation, and in terms of infrastructure, is major. It's not about the individual countries. And if you look at the standard gauge railway infrastructure, it was not meant for Kenya alone. Kenya have implemented it halfway, and they have to implement it fully up to the borders. Uganda will have to pick it, and you've seen Ugandan government commitment on the standard gauge railway, and the rest of the countries. This is a wider Africa Trans-African Infrastructure Network. Is part of opening the continent of Africa. And you remember, in this Chinese trip, it is the President and Right Honorable Raila Odinga who have visited China. And Raila Odinga was going to give a keynote address on infrastructure, having been the High Representative of AU on infrastructure, because there is infrastructure about the rail, there is infrastructure about the roads, so that then the Rironi-Mau Summit dualing. It is not dualing for the beauty of the people of Kenya. It is going to be the Trans-African Highway. It will be dual going into the future through to Uganda, all through up to Lagos. If we are talking about a borderless continent, and when you open it and make it borderless, it cannot be functional without infrastructure, so that people can move, goods can move, and Kenyans can move all the way to Lagos by rail, and by road, and by transport. We are a very entrepreneuring population. So the issue of infrastructure in terms of rail, roads, and even power, and whatever is being discussed in China are not in cells within the countries. It is about the entire... So
you're saying the criticism that was directed towards Jubilee is because the roads were not part of this greater African project. It was local roads. Because we had statements like Tukuli Barabara.
No, of course, those are opinions. You can't stop people from raising concerns if there is too much emphasis on such projects at the expense of other services. It is right for people. There must be a balance. That is the argument. And that is why you have to negotiate with donors to finance them. You negotiate with the World Bank. You negotiate with other institutions and other countries to do so. Others, PPP, like the expressway.
That has also been highly criticized.
It's being paid through the collection that is made. It's being criticized, but it's working, and it is the only option. You are not going to collect taxes and from Kenya to build the expressway. It is not possible. So the infrastructure investments cannot be done by African governments alone. And that is why there's an assembly of all the presidents of Africa so that they can agree on common projects that are cross-cutting. Like this one, we know the president spoke about it. There is a resolution from that conference about the standard gauge railway, not for the country alone, but for the entire continent. There was also what we call the LAPSET. The LAPSET corridor is another major infrastructure artery that is going to cover several regions of the East Africa. So it cannot only be seen as a Kenyan investment meant for Kenya. So you look at the standard gauge railway, it comes up to Naivasha, and you expect it to make profit. It is not. In fact, the 1 meter gauge railway within the country is making more money than the standard gauge. The standard gauge will make profit the moment it crosses over to Uganda and it begins operating across the continent, and that must be done. The LAPSET corridor, already the Lamu port is operational. Lamu port is an entry point and an exit point of the LAPSET corridor. So we should look at the future of Africa, 2063, which has been approved by AU. And that 2063 agenda must be achieved. Part of it is infrastructure. Okay. It cannot be done when you sit locally here at home and refuse to spend and refuse
Tanzania,
to congregate.
Bwana Kiplagat, Tanzanians or even the Tanzanian media has found particular issues that are of interest, particularly to Tanzania, and that's why probably there's a lot of positivity there. In as far as Kenya is concerned, could there be things that are beneficial from this trip directly for Kenyans that maybe is not being communicated clearly, so that Kenyans could also find something positive and something to smile about and say, like the words they are using in Tanzania, kunufaika?
By the way, Indumuli, Kenyans have no problem with their government. In fact, they are the most
It's not a problem with government.
They are the most patriotic people.
They're lacking something to be positive about the trip.
It is people sitting in media houses somewhere,
the media,
trying to diminish headlines to suit their own ends, which nobody knows. So let us not also take some few people sitting somewhere deciding what goes to the papers and what goes to the main media as Kenyans.
So is it a conspiracy? Are you saying media houses are
you don't do, by the way, in Ndumuli, you don't do public participation to say what are you going to publish.
These are independent businesses.
It is, it's independent. So that's why I want you to say that these are independent businesses. Don't say that why are Kenyans not excited about the foreign trip by the president.
I'm going by the skepticism even on social media that the trip may not necessarily be beneficial to Kenyans, not just about the dailies. And that is a kind of sentiment that's captured by the daily papers.
Look at what is happening. We said that we cannot get the full potential of the standard gauge railway if it is terminating in Naivasha. If we have gotten a deal to make it terminate in Malaba and all the way to DR Congo and
finally to Lagos.
And finally to Lagos, isn't that a big thing? Now, look at the problems that we have been having in our highway from Nairobi from Nakuru to Malaba. Now we shall have all that being dualed. Isn't that a big thing? And all other stalled projects. We have even this one going to Khartoum all the way to Southern Sudan. There are big things that are being able to be unlocked by African head of state by visiting China. And what they are doing is to look at connecting Africa. Connecting Africa is a big thing. And you connect Africa through the railway, you connect Africa through the roads, you connect Africa through the airports.
Could it be a problem with the communication infrastructure within government that, as you saw Tanzania, they even talking about avocados and what will happen, how much will go to Tazara, railway connectivity. How come in Kenya we don't have this kind of information? Even Kenyans don't have it.
Assuming, by the way, if your teacher comes to class, instead of teaching, he just tells the students how bad these things are, these are bad. You know, everybody will get out of that class thinking everything in this country is bad.
So the teacher here
what
is-
we are saying is
The teacher is the media. You
the
are a bad
reporting
teacher.
by the media is biased towards they are aligned to negativity, and they are not looking at anything.
Why do you think that is?
That is positive.
Why do you think?
So I think
Why do
there
you
should be-
think that the
there
media
should be
may
a
have
conference
conspired to go against the government or become negative about anything this administration does? Is it normal?
Now,
Let me ask Fred,
now you media people, you should tell us what is really happening.
Fred,
because,
let me ask. Fred, you live in Kenya. We were in 2022 elections. We saw the political position that the media took. It is your right. Even in the US, media houses take sides politically.
And they don't always agree. Everyone goes at
they
their own
don't need to
different.
agree.
It's-
They don't need
why would it be possible that media houses in Kenya agree on one thing?
But Fred, the media houses here all agreed, and they ran a very thorough campaign. Even the tallying center of the opposition, of the team that you are supporting, was done in a media house until they realized that the numbers were not adding up. You tried to run a negative campaign against the current president, William Ruto, and you lost in the election. Accept that you lost, and it was your right as media to do what you are doing. We close that chapter. But then, is it now ethical for you to try and run a message of negativity, failure, and doom about this administration?
And it's hard to
I'm
believe what you're
challenging
saying. The kind of
because
claim you say.
Media is one of my best friends as a person.
That's what I'm asking. What
Is
is
it-
there to gain
is it
for
moral?
media by being negative against the current administration?
Yes, the question is, how hard is it for you as media to report in detail, blow by blow, what is happening in China?
Are we saying
Just
that?
report.
Are we saying
Report
that it is
everything.
better? Are we saying it is
Report
better
both.
business?
Yeah?
Are we saying it is better
I think I have
media
an-
business
in the
to
mood, I have
go
an-
negative
I have
against
an
the government
hypothesis on
as
your-
compared to?
No, it's
I have
not
an
going.
hypothesis.
It's not going negative against government. It's not going reporting, because we are users of the media services. All of us institution, we are not new. I'm the greatest user of the media services. What is so difficult with objective reporting? If there is something wrong in government, like you have reported here, impunity by the police, and you have said yes,
It is
6
factual.
times.
Yes.
And if we check and it's a fact, we'll say, no, this is factual reporting. Because we want to be empirical and scientific. Let us not engage in emotions and guesswork and wishes. Emotions,
Everything is
guesswork,
factual
and
on the
wishes.
front pages.
Let us be factual, empirical, and also balanced. We must be balanced. The president is in China. All African presidents are in China. What they are undertaking, in fact, that forum could not have been done here in Africa. You sit with our partners and our main financiers. China is interested in investing in Africa, and the entire continent of Africa has developed faster because of partnership with China.
But even the president was against the structure of such forums when presidents go and meet one state of
I
the other side.
expected Fred, TV47, to have sent a cameraman and reporters to China so that you report live what is happening. I expected
We sent a team
Citizen,
to the
for
US.
example, to have done the same. I'm sorry for naming names, but I'm calling out.
Yes.
What is so difficult with reporting what is happening?
Yes, but I keep
think
If there are agreements also on education, I would have expected all
Do
that.
we have any?
Why don't
Do
we
we
report
have
it?
any?
Yes.
I think I
Yes,
have an-
support and financing of TVETs is one of the key benefits that we have attained from China.
Yes,
I think
but
I have
Why don't you report all
I
this?
think I have an hypothesis. You are asking yourself why are all media houses amalgamating to.
Isn't it simply
give
a
a plaque of-
reflection? Isn't it simply a reflection of
I have
our
an
society?
hypothesis. I have an hypothesis. One hypothesis is that this country, in terms of ruling, is dynastical, and given that it is dynastical, sometimes when you have a family who didn't have a name rising very painfully to the apex of this country, the
dynasties.
the dynasties.
No,
May I finish? You will give us time. around 30 minutes, maybe in future, we'll come and explain to you why we believe that Kenya actually has been colonized by dynasties.
Can you substantiate that?
Yeah, I will substantiate.
Yes.
But kindly note, the media is part of the dynastical structure that is...
So the media has decided that William Ruto does not deserve to be president,
of course,
and so we'll go
the
against
story
it.
covers why
Really?
I'm saying
We can read what the media is trying to
in fact, it is
ahead of 2027.
Gentlemen, you're being unfair to the media on that one.
May I finish?
Is media free?
May I finish?
Is our media free?
I've seen these governors fight back for the /20 billion revenue. Let us tell governors, the Finance Bill 2024 was withdrawn. What we are using is Finance Act 2023. So whichever amount they got in 2023 is what the government will be able to collect and what they'll be able to be given. So everybody was affected. The judiciary was affected, the legislature was affected, the executive were affected, and also the county governments will have to be affected. So let them swallow it, this bill, and stop complaining and rumbling while they know very well what happened in this country.
Yet revenue allocation is not a direct product of the finance bill. That is the
of course, that's
bill
where
that
the
emanates from the Senate.
No.
That was decided, and I think there's even mediation between the Senate and the...
You see, you are mediating. When we were doing the mediation, it was because we were in Finance Bill 2024, which was withdrawn. Having withdrawn, and that is the reason why we had to amend the DORA. We had to come with the supplementary budget immediately 1 month after passing the appropriation bill. So let them not live in utopian society where they think that they are the only ones who should not be touched. Everyone has been touched. Let us accept that and let us move on. Okay. When things improve, because now that we have the broad-based government and my friend Bad is now the CS for Treasury, if you will be able to introduce the Finance Bill 2024 afresh, and be able to communicate better to Kenyans, and be able to collect the revenue that we wanted to collect, each one will be given their share. But for now, let everyone in Kenya take the bait.
Okay. Final words, Bwana Sossion.
I think generally the key thing that has taken center stage here is what happened in China.
Despite the fact that it's not on our front pages today.
Why are they not on our front page? Because the media informs, the media educates, the media entertains. If I've seen what is happening, what is being reported in Tanzania, I can imagine the avocado farmers in Tanzania, they know there's a market in China, so there's hard work towards that. We must have maintained a connection with all the activities. Wherever the president goes, I think the country and the citizens deserve detailed reporting and accounting. We must account. Let us be a country of total accountability, and we account for everything that goes on. So I do challenge the media. You will help develop this country, and the freedom of the media in Kenya is one of the best. And I can tell you, having traveled all over the world, Kenyan media is one of the best, very vibrant. You can only do us one favor.
Stickler to the truth.
You can only do us one great favor by being very truthful, very objective, and can you report what is happening in government in greater detail so that Kenyans can understand. Communicate with Kenyans. Kenyans are also the most positive population, even in terms of political democratic ideals. We are doing very well. We are the first in many things. And if we are the first in many things, it is now the fourth estate, the media, to consolidate all these and to help us move forward. I expect, even though it's not too late in the day, for the media to focus on the president's trip in China, what was done, communicate to the public so that we understand. It triggers what we are doing and it can shape the thinking and understanding of Kenyans. But I'm happy that at the end of the day, teachers are back in class. I'm happy that we have a very proactive president. I wish I served as a union leader under President William Ruto.
And I know because education is still, from the China trip, before we move on from there, you mentioned something about TVET, and I know education is key here.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that deal? Because probably that's what we'd like communicated.
You know, the president is very keen in the delivery of quality education, both basic education and higher education, and particularly TVET. And I know the CS education was part of the entourage and part of the program and package. I'm yet to get the details, is how the Chinese government will support our TVET institutions to equip so that a TVET institution can act as incubation hubs of industrialization and technology that is going to help the economic zones which are being developed in every country, and how the TVETs can really translate, can really equip our youth in terms of both skills, technological skills. And you know, we are moving to the fourth industrial revolution. And the president has been very keen about having ICT hubs in every ward in the country. So we cannot do that without partnership of technologies that have that capacity. And I think one of the greatest packages is the support for our TVET institution within this China trip of the president.
Okay.
So that is one of the key benefits. To me, I celebrate that direction, and I am sure that is going to enhance the quality of delivery of education within our TVET institution.
Okay, thank you, Bwana Sossion. Anything to add, Bwana Kiplagat?
Yeah, I think what I just wanted to add is that for media, let us be fair. We were able, the Kenya Kwanza were able to campaign because of the availability of other channels of communication, that is the social media, the Facebook and SpaceX, and we really use that, and that's why we were able to pass this information.
This media house was
so I fathom just imagine if those other channels of communication were not available, our messaging of government and our messaging of our plan would have been, because let us be fair, let us be factual, and let us not be colonized by the dynastical kingpinship in this country.
Thank you so much, David Kiplagat, MP, Soy constituency, and Wilson Sossion, former MP and also one-time Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers. Media on the spot this time round in this panel. State of the Nation right here on Morning Cafe. Anyway, it is a Feel-Good Friday, so a lot of music coming up. Another interesting discussion after the break in matters filmmaking. Don't miss that. My colleague Stanley Nyaringeta will be in studio to take you through that. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. Good morning.